Let's take you back to our breaking news story for this hour. Now, Catholic Pope Emeritus Benedict the Sixteenth has died at the age of 95. This was confirmed and announced by the Vatican spokesperson. And now the Pope Benedict was the 16th was born Josef Ratzinger in Germany in 1927. For more on this story, we're now joined via Zoom by Father Phuti Makgabo from the South African Catholic Bishops' Conference. Father Makgabo, thank you so much for your time. Sad news coming in at this hour. From a Catholic's point of view, what is your reaction to the news of the passing of the Pope?
Well, thank you for having me on your program. Indeed, it is sad news for us Catholics. As you can imagine, with the passing of every Pope, it will always be sad news for Catholics, even if we are speaking about a Catholic with a title of Emeritus, meaning that the ex-Pope in this sense, and he was probably now is the first Emeritus in many, many years. So many people may have not been familiar with the title. But it is indeed sad news. This is the person who was the father of the church before the current Pope, Pope Francis. So even if he is a Pope in retirement, it will always be sad news when the Pope passes away. He's the person who led the church for quite a few years.
All right,
sad
that
news.
is, yes, Father Makgabo there. It seems like we have lost him indeed. We will try and endeavor to bring you that connection back. And of course, he's just basically giving us his reflection to the sad news that have just come in. And of course, you must stay tuned to SABC News for more rolling coverage on this. So, Father Makgabo, you were still, talking to us about some of your takeouts from this life of the Pope.
Indeed. I'm sure that some people will remember that when he resigned, it was always a wonder as to what kind of a Pope are we going to have after him, because he was a kind of a Pope who was known to be a Pope who is very strict or straight to the point, But he is a Pope that many of us can take solace in the fact that he led the church in the right direction. And we're happy that the current Pope has taken over from a person like him. And so, yes, it's going to be obviously news everywhere about his passing. And obviously, you're going to be hearing a lot of stories about him as to how he was when he was a Pope. But for us, he is a man who has always been our father in our faith, in the Catholic faith. And so we are on the part of the church asking every person in his or her capacity to continue to pray for the church, that we may continue to have leaders like him in the Catholic Church.
As you continue to share some of your reflections, now he was known to be a man who never minced his words and was very unwavering in his commitment to ensure that, the Vatican goes the direction that he wants it to go. Speak to us about some of your reflections, as well as maybe what you take out the most from his leadership style.
Well, thankfully, as you said, he's a man who never minced his words. I mean, personally, I like him for the fact that he was a man who was very clear as to his standpoint. So you knew where he stood. He's a man that we can proudly say is the man who defended the church, who defended the teaching of the church. Some of the teachings of the church, as we may know, these are perennial teachings of the church. But in the times that we live, just like in some times in the past, they will always be challenged by the changing times. And so he's a man who stood his point and always made sure that we all try our best to be able to live our faith according to what the church teaches, not according to our own opinions, because just like in any place in our country, we have a constitutional court which takes final decision on certain decisions of the country. And then once it has decided, that is what we live by. And so the church also operates in the same way. It's got the highest body that leads the church. And so he made sure that we try our best to live by what the church teaches as to what we can call the revelation from our Lord. And so, that's one of the things that we may say that we miss about him, the clarity that he always had on certain matters. He was a great teacher indeed.
Right, Father Makgabo, you know, when we speak of someone who is now late, you know, we normally remember them for their works that they leave behind. Talk to us about the legacy you think he leaves behind.
Well, the legacy, as I said before, there isn't much that I can say that is very different from his predecessors, because he succeeded John Paul II and he sort of walked in the same line with him. So the main legacy that I have highlighted is his clarity on teaching, on the teaching of the church. That is one thing that I will remember him for, the clarity that he had on the teaching of the church. But also because he extended his hand towards people of other religions as well, to be able to make sure that together as the humanity, we have a protection for what we call the common good, to be able to extend our hand to other people and say, we share in this common home, as is known to be a common home for all of us. So that all of us, we work together toward what we all want, the peace in the world. And so I think that route as well, he contributed a lot towards the common good, which first and foremost for us as humanity would be peace in the world.
Father Phuti Makgabo there, who is the SA Catholics Bishops Conference communication manager there, joining us to share some of his reflections on the breaking news story that we've just brought you now on the passing of the Catholic Pope Emeritus Benedict the 16th, who has died at the age of 95.